Okay, good morning all. I'm Adrian Richings from ACS. Welcome to our Mimecast webinar this morning. With me, with our partnership from Mimecast, I've got Chris and Callum. Callum Node will be doing the presenting for us today, and Chris will also be on hand to help with any questions you might have at the end. With regards to questions, it's live, so if you can please put any questions you have in the Q&A section, and we will get to them and cover off as much as we can at the end, if that's okay with you. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to Callum, who's going to run through the presentation, and then, as I said, we'll answer any questions at the end. So please do put questions in if you have any, and we'll get to them when we can. So over to you, Callum.
Lovely, thank you very much. So I'm Callum Node. I'm a sales engineer at Mimecast. So predominantly I handle product demonstrations and technical discussions with Mimecast customers. And today we're going to be running through Mimecast's new email security 3.0 messaging. It's an insight into kind of where Mimecast is going, new technologies that we've made available, and how the threat landscape has evolved in such a way that has become necessary for us to do so. So the premise of email security 3.0 is moving our defenses into zones. So zone 1 is defense at the perimeter. Zone 2 is defense within that perimeter and then user awareness. And zone 3 is pervasive threat hunting. So all of these zones fight back against business disruption. So we think about it in terms of attack vectors. So the traditional email security perimeter was established in order to secure a company against spam, malicious payloads, and then that evolved into targeted threats, things like malicious URLs or impersonation attacks. Inside the perimeter, new threats have emerged, including data leaks and devastating human errors, and the outbreak and spread of malware from that position, from compromised accounts and the likes. So outside of your people and organization, and outside of that perimeter that protects you, hackers have started to attack people from away from the realm of inbound and outbound email, and instead they focus on your organization's brand or domain, taking advantage of the fact that most customers don't have the visibility or intelligence to spot those threats and the inability to hunt for the latest risks. Across the ecosystem, customers are lacking the ability to gain additional insight or actionable guidance how to address these security concerns. And what we're now able to do, Mimecast has an open API as well, so we can kind of share that intelligence. We can share the leaks and what Mimecast picks up into your SIEMs, into source solutions, so you can get that guidance from there and how to address them and can orchestrate a response. So at your email perimeter, this is the kind of the bread and butter of what Mimecast have always done. Even though the threat landscape has evolved away from this, it is still such a huge problem. There are still $26 billion worth of damages in that kind of 3-year span. And a huge part of that, especially what Mimecast have seen a massive increase at the moment, especially as a lot of people are doing more online in their day-to-day and more people moving to Office 365 and similar solutions. We still see 222 unique Office 365 phishing URLs per day. So even though the perimeter defense is kind of a bit is on the older scale of what Mimecast have done, it is still very, very important to have strong perimeter defense for reasons like this. And then we move on to inside your network and organizations. So this is in regards to your user awareness training. So it's all very well and good having that kind of very strong protection at your front door. But then if your user is just going to open the front door and allow an attack in, then it was almost all for nothing. So user awareness is such an important part of an organization. 86% of threats and data leaks start with an employee. It is very, very well known that the weakest link of an organization security chain will be the employee, and it is very, very important that those guys get the relevant training to address that. And as I lightly touched on earlier, regarding kind of the spread of attacks internally, 71% of malicious content is distributed by end users. But we can use technology to kind of scan to see what it is that's being moved around and prohibit that. Beyond your perimeter, so spoofing is nothing new. Everyone has seen or experienced some form of spoofing. So 88% of people have experienced that themselves, or seen some domain hijacking too. So some more advanced attacks that are out there now. In a 3-month span, 80,000 phishing websites were discovered from July to September last year. These are stats from last year. These aren't this isn't taking into account the kind of the position the world is in at the moment. More people are online than, or doing more online than they've ever had to before. So we are expecting to see that number exponentially increase for this year. So to go into a bit more detail about what it is that we do at the perimeter. So the first line of defense is Mimecast's core detection. So we accurately reject 45% of total emails sent into our customers. That's roughly 1.1 billion emails a day. And that's your spam and advanced threats, as well as basic signatures. So this is made up of kind of everywhere we pull our intelligence from. So that's all of our customers themselves, all of some third-party reputation lists, and other engines as well to tell us what to block at the kind of first instance. We also receive our own intel kind of from further down the chain in terms of the enhanced filtering and advanced protection. That's where things like targeted threat protection and any customer-based policies come into play. We share that threat intelligence straight back up to our messaging security team. So we continually grow our core detection. It gets better all the time to make sure that we are accurately batting these threats away as quickly as possible. So advanced filtering is kind of it's reputational intelligence, and it's our customer policies, such as their kind of anti-spoofing rules for themselves, because it's all very customizable, as is the majority of the Mimecast platform. And that rejects another 33% of emails that come into the gateway for all of our customers, which means that remaining number goes to advanced protection, which is the really, really targeted threats. So that's where things like Mimecast impersonation protection, our attachment protection, URL inspection, that's where that really comes into play and makes our advanced determinations. That's where our protection against day zero threats really, really comes into its own. So things that haven't been seen before, that's when we're not relying on third-party engines or reputation lists or any just kind of the basic spam stuff and signatures that we've seen before. That's us actively really, really drilling into these messages and the attachments and links that come through and making intelligent determinations. And what that starts to look like in terms of attachment protection. So here's everything we do there. When an email comes across with an attachment, this is our kind of workflow. Some of this stuff you're going to have seen before, and it's all some of it's very self-explanatory. So macros and dangerous file types, yep. Majority of people don't have bypasses in place for this. We block EXEs, PKGs at the gateway because those are the sorts of files that shouldn't really be getting emailed around. And the same for macros. Any kind of macros we detect in Excel files, Word files, we can block those as well to make sure that there's nothing funky going to happen from a Word file that comes across. Then we run attachments across our own antivirus engine. Even though we're very, very proud of our antivirus engine, it's very good at what it does. We don't just rely on that one level. So at Mimecast, we love a bit of layering. So we also use 3 other commercially available antivirus engines. So that's the stuff, that's all kind of self-explanatory and I guess standard. You've probably seen that before, but where Mimecast is different and where we really, really stand apart from other people on this is our static file analysis. And that's us looking at attachments as they come across into the gateway, and without detonating them in a sandbox or queuing them up to be sandboxed, we can analyze line by line of code in that file and see exactly what's going to happen. We can check for things like obfuscated code. So That's when an attacker has injected a few lines of code into something like a Word file that's going to have a negative impact on an end user. Obviously, we make that determination based on, well, why is there hidden code in a Word file? Surely if it's something as simple as just sending over a couple of documents or a CV into a recruitment team's inbox, there's no reason for there to be any code hidden in there. So we're able to then make some determinations. So static file analysis, even though it's a really, really intelligent and deep process, it's got 100% efficacy. Process that takes 0.4 seconds, so seriously fast for what it can do. And again, that's why Mimecast stands aside with static file analysis, what makes us different and unique. We do have traditional sandboxing technology as well. Again, it's kind of user configurable. It's full hardware emulation sandboxing. So for those of you who have used sandbox technologies before, you're probably aware of what that can do, what we can do with that. But that means we can put a file in the sandbox environment. We can speed up time to see if there's a time-based trigger event. We can run mouse clicks. We can run keyboard strokes. We can just see if there's something that was going to happen further down the line with a file. But with static file analysis on top of sandboxing, it's not necessary. You don't necessarily need to sandbox everything. And like I say, it's all configurable on the administration console. So the second thing we do for these emails in regards to the targeted threats and the deeper stuff is URL inspection. And again, everything you kind of see on the right there, that funnel, that is the workflow of what we do. So we rewrite the URLs, and then when a user clicks on it, we can then run some scans on that web page to make a determination, is it a safe web page? We run these checks every single time a user clicks on them. Very, very important to run them every time and not just at the gateway. Reason being, if a link comes through in an email and at the time that link is fine, there's no content on that website, or it's fine, it's a website you know well, or someone sent it to you and it's just blank. If kind of a few weeks down the line that website was to become compromised by an attacker, if it was to be weaponized by an attacker, we scan again and we make a redetermination that it has since become dangerous. It has now been weaponized for malicious intent. And again, where Mimecast really stands aside with this is the amount of redirects we check as well. So typically per URL, we will check 50 redirects. So that tackles the highest level of obfuscation. So again, that's really where we go above and beyond. We've also got an anti-phish kit, so we can detect mass-produced replicated imitations of web pages and URLs. So we come back to that stat I gave you at the beginning of this webinar. Mimecast sees 222 unique Office 365 login pages a day. This is what helps us identify those and protect our customers against those day zero attacks. You can also run this with the advanced similarity checking as well. So that catches imitations of major brands or your own domains or your specified domains that you may have highlighted to Mimecast to look for. So if you belong to a business network, we can start to kind of check anything similar to those web pages too, see if there's a bitflip attack or anything just a little bit dangerous about the website that's come through. So that's what we do for URLs and attachments. The last one on the kind of Mimecast targeted threat protection stack at the gateway is impersonation protection. So this is us making 5 checks on emails that come through, and those checks will kind of be characteristics of an impersonation attack. And based on the amount of things or the amount of flags that are raised from emails that come through with those checks or failing those checks is kind of what you can do. So if we see 1 or 2 of them, okay, it might not be an impersonation attack. There might be a domain which is similar to yours or someone else's that you work with out there, and the username might be John Smith, of which you might have someone called John Smith in your organization with your similar domain. So that's 2 checks, but where that's not necessarily an attack, you can flag that as caution for the end user to get them to treat it a little bit differently and not just open any link or attachment that comes through or start doing anything, but get them to think about it. But if you saw kind of the 4 or 5 of the checks failed on an impersonation, and that's when it can go to the administrators, and we can use a notification to say, hey, we saw this attack come through, the administrators are looking at it now, but please bear with. So that's what we do. Those are the kind of advanced checks we do at the gateway, and just some of the core stuff like the anti-spam and things that you would kind of really expect a secure email gateway to be doing. So then we go to inside your network and organization. So bring it back to what I mentioned earlier. It's great having that much protection at the gateway. That gives you really, really in-depth protection against advanced threats and the more basic spam and phishing attempts that we see every day. But if you do have an end user which is just going to kind of open the front door to an attacker, allow them through, or even if their account was to become compromised and start spreading stuff internally within that perimeter, that's when we need end user training to kind of tighten those screws so that doesn't happen, and start scanning those emails as well to kind of make determinations of compromised accounts so we can put a stop to that. But firstly, we will look at the awareness training. So most end users consider it a necessary evil, even though that they must sit through training because of other errors. And also 97% of the population cannot identify a sophisticated phish. So where people are so unenthusiastic, they're not really engaging with their security training much. They're not engaging, they're not learning, and that kind of plays into the whole that they can't identify a sophisticated phish. So if an end user gets kind of caught out by a phishing attack, again, they have to do more training, and it's just that vicious cycle. We don't care about the training, we don't learn, we get caught, we have to do more training, and so on. So Mimecast have introduced an awareness training platform to challenge that, to change the perception of email security and kind of change how end users think about it as well. We don't want it to be something they really, really hate. It's 4 hours every month and I have to sit in this kind of classroom environment with someone very dull telling me, don't do this, do that, and tick this box on your way out, and then you lose 4 hours of your day for a tick box. Mimecast awareness training engages users with award-winning content. It's all professionally written, acted, directed, and produced. So we own a production house which makes these videos. And the writers are US sitcom writers. So we like to make the videos quite entertaining. So we kind of see that that's the most consumed content worldwide is video, and the most consumed type of video is sitcom. So we like to think by having it that kind of style, people are a little bit more engaged with it. They are a little bit more switched on. They're watching it, they're taking it in, and they're learning. The videos themselves are only 2 to 3 minutes long as well. So we generally see customers push 1 video out a month. So that kind of takes away the whole fear of the security training as well. It's no longer sitting in the classroom environment. It's a couple of minutes a month. It's quite funny, and you'll kind of learn as time goes on from there. So we use consistent characters as well. So kind of people can latch onto them, they can follow them, and they can learn from them and with them. And we also kind of run that alongside some user tracking as well. So we track everything the user does. We track if they're watching the content. We track if they're what kind of answers they're giving to questions. We track how engaged they are. There's a little survey that goes out every now and then that just asks them a couple of questions about how they feel about the training, and how they've kind of changed what they do in regards to the training. Are they now more secure? Do they now take more steps, and so on? So we can actually really tell how the users are improving, and not just we ran some phish tests and we caught a few people. Cool. So we do run phish tests as well. That is a part of the platform. So it's very, very simple to implement. We've got tons of templates ready to go. We update the templates all the time, same as we do with the videos. We're in a privileged position with the production house. We can turn around videos very, very quickly to meet today's requirements. We've already got templates for kind of coronavirus and the like. So anything that's kind of new and emerging, we can fit that straight away. The benefit of us completely owning the awareness training platform and it being a part of our stack is that we can put these real world tests out there. And same as the kind of the overall training. We can track who's clicked on links from phishing training. We can track who's kind of entered data into a phishing page. And you can use that information to push the training to those risky users. So the whole platform is designed to kind of let you know who the risky users are and who needs the extra help, and reward the users that are kind of consistently getting it right. So we also give a risk score for the organization as well as the users, and you'll kind of you'd see that on the dashboard. So it's all measured across kind of other organizations and kind of what we've got already. So we've kind of got benchmarks. We can measure people and organizations against it. So yeah, like I said before, we can identify your riskiest users and stop them before they make a mistake, and then you can apply time and resources to where you need it the most, and not kind of keep on badgering the people that know IT security, they get it right every time. You can kind of focus your energy to where it's really required. So in the event of a breach through a targeted attack, the first thing that malicious actors attempt to do is spread with email. So it may be something you've seen before, or maybe something you've kind of had a discussion about before. Certainly lots of the customers I speak to, when we kind of talk about internal email protect side of Mimecast, they will say, we had a breach and we found out because someone came to us and said, one of your guys is sending us some very questionable emails. So yeah, it's something that happens a lot, and you can see that's represented by the statistics as well. So 71% of organizations report malicious activity was spread between infected users by email. And that becomes a very expensive problem to fix as well. And that's, again, average remediation cost for Office 365 customers, $104 per user per year. So this is a very, very expensive problem. But luckily, Mimecast do now have a solution to help you remediate that, and that won't cost you that much money per user per year. So we have Mimecast Mimecast internal email protection. So we apply the latest intelligence. It's continually applied to mailboxes and internal traffic. So all of that kind of gateway technology you saw earlier. So the URLs, the attachments, and we use content examination policies as well. We apply that to your internal traffic to keep your users safe. So mailbox becomes compromised. Someone sends out a new Office 365 phishing link in the attempt to kind of get some more credentials. We apply the URL protection technologies. We stop that. We give a notification to the administrators, and then you've caught a compromised account before they've been able to really cause some more damage. There's no PowerShell scripts required. There's nothing tricky there. So again, if you're looking to remove email content from a user mailbox at the moment, maybe the process looks a little bit like get some nice, powerful PowerShell scripts out there. Maybe you get some Office 365 delegations and start removing the content manually. There's none of that with this. We do have a kind of like an undo button. So if you think the Outlook recall button that doesn't necessarily work every time, we do have a Mimecast version of that from the administration console as well. So you can use that in the event of you need to manually remediate. So we're doing the kind of URL attachment threats, or the kind of any malicious content we pick up. All of that stuff's automatic, but the manual remediation really comes into its own, where you see sensitive information being sent to the wrong place. Once again, it's very, very likely something that some of you guys have seen or have spoken to someone about before. My experience with it was I was at a consultancy company over in the bank area of London, and the consultants had their day rates sent to them, or sent to their distribution list rather than where it was supposed to go. So they knew how much money they were worth to the company, how much money they were earning in conjunction, and how much money their friends were worth. So that was obviously some kind of very, very sensitive data that shouldn't have gone there, and that was a bit of a headache couple of days for me and the rest of the guys on my team. So there are tons of kind of stories like that, where people have kind of wished they could have used a powerful undo button, and Mimecast now gives you the option to do that. So with kind of an attachment file hash or a message ID, and soon subjects, date and time as well, you can search on the administration console and remove those messages from every single mailbox where they sit with one click. So as well as just protecting users internally, so part of Mimecast internal email protect also includes outbound protection. So again, very, very similar situation to what I've just discussed. You've got a compromised account. They send out the 365 phishing pages. They send out malicious attachments. They just want to kind of cause some harm to your customers or kind of third parties that you work with. Use the same principles on outbound emails too. It's just an extra layer of protection, and it's something that customers like to know that you're using. They like to know that you're kind of protecting them from threats coming out of your environment. And that, yeah, protects your reputation nicely. So that's how we protect you inside your network and organization. So end user training and Mimecast internal email protect. But the two kind of latest technologies are away from the perimeter. So it's giving you visibility into attacks that you would otherwise be unaware of. And that's just because of how the attack landscape has developed. So attackers now know that if they come to the front door with an attack, they are very, very likely to be batted away. So what they can do is start attacking customers directly, and they can do so by hijacking kind of branding and imaging. They can spoof domains, they can throw up fake websites. And these two new technologies really kind of combat that. They give you the visibility to see where this is happening and give you the opportunity to stop it. So the first element of this is brand exploit protection. So this is acting on suspicious and actively malicious domains and URLs, and it gives you the opportunity to take them down directly from a dashboard. So technology to now completely wipe out domains which are malicious online and potentially spoofing you. So we use artificial intelligence and machine learning. That's used against threat data to detect known and unknown brand abuse techniques. We also detect non-domain related threats. So we have a web agent in place which can tell us if content from your website has been scraped and thrown up somewhere else. We can tell you if it's been stolen. So it doesn't even have to be a domain very similar to your own. If your content's stolen, we just let you know. In terms of the takedown time, it's seriously fast. So it's an average of 3 hours. It's usually seconds. And if you kind of talk to people about this, and if they've had this problem before, if someone has spoofed their website before, a lot of people's experience with getting websites removed is, well, we had to get a solicitor. We had to sit in their office for a couple of days a week, for a couple of weeks or so. And it was very, very expensive. We had to pay for their time. We had to give them all of this intelligence and analysis on it before we could get anything done. It's very painful, but we kind of take that process. We gather the intelligence for you and we can take it down for you. And like I say, in an average time of 3 hours, which is an absolute lifesaver to anyone that's been through that situation before. So this is also fully integrated with Mimecast detection. The protection is automated and deployed to the whole ecosystem through API. So you can actually change some Mimecast policies within the brand exploit protection dashboard as well. So if you're also using things like Mimecast web security, you can put a web security policy in place to kind of stop your users from accessing the malicious websites. If the website is trying to coax your users into logging in to steal their credentials, you can block access to that site for your guys whilst we work on the takedown. So yeah, we do also have mitigation, which is deception technology. So if attackers are out there and they're trying to steal things like usernames and passwords, or maybe credit card numbers, we do have technology in place to give them some fake data. So the kind of finding the legitimate needles in the haystack becomes a really, really tricky job for them. And attackers these days are really lazy. They use things like fish kits. They don't kind of invent these attacks themselves. They just use the mass-produced ones. They'll just move on to the next target and someone who's not as well protected. And then we come to DMARC Analyzer. So this helps you simplify DMARC enforcement, gives you full visibility and governance across all your email channels. So if you get to the stage where you're at reject, if you've got a DMARC reject policy in place, you can completely stop people using your domains for their own malicious intent. A huge problem email has at the moment is you can still pretend to be anyone in the world, and the DMARC reject policy will stop that. If you have that policy in place, people can no longer pretend to be you via over email, and this kind of helps you get to that stage. By using kind of DMARC Analyzer, this mitigates the risk of disruption from deploying DMARC. So again, it sometimes can be a tricky process. You have to kind of make sure all of your legitimate email sources and people who send on behalf of you for real are kind of all tied up with your DKIM signatures. They're in your SPF records. This helps give you the visibility to see who those people are, and then Mimecast can help you get those in place before you go to reject. So if there is any disruption from these services stopping working from a DMARC policy, we can, like I say, assist you with that. All the forensic reports are nice and encrypted as well. Everything on the platform is all kind of encrypted. It's all protected, 2FA'd up, so you guys are nice and secure whilst you're on there. We do have a couple of different service offerings as well. So if you do find yourself in the situation where you know you need to be doing a DMARC project, but it is just one of those things, there's not a lot of time for that at the moment. You guys have kind of got other concerns right now. There's some working from home concerns of trying to keep users all working away nicely, especially at the moment. Then there were a couple of managed service offerings for this. And the last thing is the real-time reports and monitoring. So a big part of DMARC in general is those reports to tell you who's out there, who's using your domain, and where do we need to kind of stop them from using our domain, or who do I need to help become kind of verified. And then we kind of give you some nice monitoring on that afterwards as well. So you don't have to log into the dashboard every day. We can give you an alert to say, hey, we've seen a fair few more of these forensic reports come through. People are spoofing you more than normal. Is there a change in your environment? And then you can use that to implement some changes. All right, cool. So that is Mimecast's email 3.0 vision. So we're moving from perimeter email security to pervasive. So we're not waiting for attacks anymore with things like Brand Exploit Protect and DMARC Analyzer, going out there, finding these attacks firsthand and stopping them before they've become a problem for your users and your customers. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, mate. There's a lot of information in there about Mimecast 3.0. So fabulous product. We use it at ACS and many of our customers do. There's no questions at the moment as far as I can see. I'll just give it a little bit while I'm talking just to see if there's any questions come in. Before we go, just to let you know, we try and do these webinars every week. We have another next week with our partners 8x8, and they're talking about 8x8 Voice for Microsoft Teams webinar. All of our webinars that are coming up can be viewed and registered on our website, which is www.acs365.co.uk/webinars. Also on there is all the previous webinars that you can click on and watch through to see if any of those are of interest to you. Also, if you've got or require any further information on what you've seen or heard today, then obviously please contact your account manager at ACS to ask some of the questions, or alternatively you can email in at info@acs365.co.uk and we'll direct your inquiry then to one of the guys to get back to you. But I hope that was informative and enjoyable. Great deal of information there, and fantastic way to protect your environment and to help your users to understand more about what their role is. We know that at ACS, and we do an awful lot of training with Mimecast on how to try and educate our users so that they don't click on malicious content, or they recognise it and report it to our IT team. So fantastic product. As I said, please do go to the website and have a look, or ask your account managers any questions. But there's nothing, chaps, question-wise coming on here for now. So I think we'll call that a day. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you, Chris and Callum, for this morning. And we'll talk again soon.
Lovely. Cheers, guys. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.